this one. But yeah, it still would rank lowish, but about average actually for the amount of total meters in the game. Usually expect around about 2,400 in most games, and this had 2,320 odd. So there you go. Paul O'Brien, another witness.
No, we need to finish Mark.
Oh.
We need to finish Mark's feedback.
Sorry.
So Mark continues. Salford will be kicking themselves, but points mean prizes, and they didn't score enough of them when they were on top. Maybe a theme for them as this happened against Wakey too. I backed Heremiah for man of the match on the app with Widnes behind. Aren't I clever?
Wasn't Heremiah the only Widnes option, so that's why the Widnes fan went for that option?
I think he was. But we'll talk more about bizarre things on the Owl League app when we come into the next game.
Well, before we get that far, then I will do Paul O'Brien, and I apologise to Mark there. And he covers one of the key topics of this week's games. But poor first half from the Vikings. Again, poor under the sticks and clueless in attack. Thought we were lucky with some calls in the second half from the referee. Don't think it was a high tackle on Heremiah, and the ball steal was a harsh call. But you have to take them, and thankfully a win is a win. Tough Easter ahead for the Vikings. Now can the owner of NE14ABJ move their car, please?
You see, this is sort of brings me on to a side point, but I bet that 5-second clip of the announcer there reading it out got more views than any single try has on Twitter all season.
Well, I still think Paul Wood's swearing at the National Conference game has got more views than any other clip that has ever been released of Rugby AM bits. So yeah.
Some more feedback from Neil McEwen. Well, that was painful to watch. Salford had us schooled in the first half. Great performance in the second half, especially as we only had one prop on field after Chapel Howe went off after failing head test. If we can't get some props back in the next week, Easter is going to be a drunken shagging at the back of the kebab shop, pumped in public and trying to forget about it for a long time. On a positive, Inu has been outstanding so far.
Yeah, and he continued to go in that vein, but Heremiah was richly deserving of the man of the match. I'm not sure if he quite played 80 minutes, but I think he might have nipped off for a bit in the first half, maybe, but I'm not even certain of that. But he was really dynamic. He won them a couple of penalties or so, even if he did have to get a bit of roughing up to have that happen. And I do think he was the man of the match for them, given that they won it in the end and he scored the try that absolutely sealed it. But to me, Salford were the better team for 75 minutes of this game, and I think they have to blame themselves for the fact that they lost this game. They were let down by only one or two players, but in key positions. Jack Littlejohn is an absolute passenger in the halfbacks.
I could not remember a single thing he did. I was trying to just talking to someone about this, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't tell you even what colour boots he was wearing because I just couldn't remember a thing.
I remember one play where he jumped into dummy half and got a pass away to a forward to run, and that literally that's all I can remember from him. Whereas your usual standout of Junior Sau was pretty solid for them in the forwards, Kopchak, and in particular when he was on the field before he got injured, Lee Mossop was fantastic, I thought, for Salford in this one. I just think it goes back to that taking the penalties before half time. I mean, Robert Louis is one of the most unconvincing goal kickers I've ever seen. He was woeful in some of his goal kicking attempts. Even though he didn't miss many, he only missed one, I think, in the game.
It's the body language and the body positioning
just
as much
wobbly.
as anything.
He almost toe bungs them.
Yeah. But you can contrast that even with Kristen. He's just not that Inu on the opposite side, who just looked a bit more confident. And you think, well, who are you going to pick?
Yeah, exactly, and and I don't think Kristen Inu's not even first choice goal kicker at Widnes. No. Normally Tom Gilmore will be kicking the goals, and then as well as kicking penalties when they probably should have tried to push for maybe some points at least on one of those occasions. There was also the discipline got well away from him in that start of the second half. Now the Lama Tassi high tackle on Aaron Heremiah, I do think was a high tackle because his shoulder hit him square on the chin,
And there was no effort to use his arm, really.
That was the problem, weren't it? Yeah. And it could have been a penalty for a shoulder charge, and the fact that there was head contact too meant it was a sin bin, basically.
Yeah. It was quite clear cut, I think, especially, and it was one definitely where it looks one of those ones that does look worse in slow motion because of the way the sort of impact comes. But even so, I think, watching that in real time, that's definitely at least a penalty because he went to the head. Yellow card. I don't think you can have many complaints about that.
And I get what Ian Watson said about if it wasn't on TV, that wouldn't have happened. So maybe they've been suffered a bit because of being on TV. But if the TV cameras didn't exist in Super League, Salford wouldn't exist as a club. So
that's true. But also, don't forget, when you haven't got the TV cameras there, you've got 2 extra officials stood in the in goals. So who are picking up on things and would be mic'd up and would be chatting into the referee. So there's as much a chance they would have seen it. Are you there? Are you coughing? Are you dead?
I was coughing. I went mute for a second. Whilst I was doing the absolute opposite of being mute. Yeah. But I suppose the other thing, like, penalties kept being conceded then in that second half by Salford, particularly towards the back end, because they'd got tired, because they'd had to tackle on with 12 men for 10 minutes at the start of that second half. And I just think they absolutely created the problems for themselves because they were such the better team in the first half. Even if Widnes probably did score the better try with Christine's try off that lovely pass from Joe Mellor, whereas Kopchak's try was a bit ropey. But all that came after the Daryl Alfert's no try. What do you think of that? Because obviously there was a bit of a split. Well, there wasn't much of a split opinion. Everyone thought it was a try in the Sky Comms box.
I think if Jake Bibby hadn't been stood there, if he hadn't been stood in the way, it would have been a try. I think just because he was there was giving that extra blocking off, and I think that's what created the doubt. But my initial reaction was no try when I was watching it live, and obviously that's which way they went. And I'm still 50-50, to be honest. What do you think?
On the replays, the bigger doubt for me became, did he ever actually cleanly ground the ball? Because it took an age for the ball to get anywhere near the turf, and by then it had sort of fallen off one hand, rolled over another arm, and I'm not sure he ever really got it down properly.
And with the trailing foot as well, you just couldn't.
And so eventually that foot will have been out. And I just think, I don't know, I think you have to criticise Alferts for not getting that try scored. I don't think, even if it was a try, the replays couldn't prove anything. But even if it was a try, it was like really, really lucky if it would have been a try.
Yeah.
Because he should have been scoring a lot easier than that, and he should have been doing, and obviously that's his lack of maturity, lack of experience on the wing, as well as in Super League, because he was a centre for. He was a
centre throughout his League One career and with Hemel, so it doesn't surprise me in that way. So I think actually one thing on the Kopchak try is the support line that he was running was absolutely perfect. He was just waiting on the exact line, and he came in perfect run to score that try.
I wonder if he was offside, but I have a feeling he was offside. But either way, to me the better team lost, but they deserved to lose because they cost themselves with their own decision making, with their own lack of confidence with the ball close to the opposition line, That's my last words on this one. Have you got anything else?
No. I mean, it was
just saying whether you're for a BJ or not.
Well, always. Who doesn't? One thing I did notice was Dennis Betts was back in his tower prison again. So he's been banished up to the top of the fun house. But did anyone see the twins? That's what I want to know.
Well, they were busy moving that car.
Do you know you can hire the Funhouse twins for an event?
We were talking about this at my friend's house the other week. Basically not about the twins from Funhouse, but what sort of minor celebrities could you get for like £100? Just to rock up for like a barbecue at your mate's house. Who could you get for £100? And I was saying like you might be able to get like one member of Hearsay or something.
Danny. do you think if we all chipped in, we could get someone along to Magic or the Bash?
What, to raise the profile of the game?
Yeah, just to come with us.
It's another option. If the SLP donations go through the roof, it's something we can look into using as a way of promoting the
I wonder.
sport.
Yeah, I wonder what Melanie and Martina think of Rugby League.
I'm amazed that you know their names.
Well, as I said, we're friends were having some discussions before about how much, well, I think it started off as what were they doing now? So then ended up finding out that you could hire them to come along to do a party or whatever. So there you go.
What was the going rate?
I think it was quite reasonable. It was one of those contact us for details. But I think it was. I got the impression just from their website that it wasn't going to be extortionate.
Fair enough. Right, well, let's do the stats before we have too much fun in the fun house. And the stats were pretty close, with Salford actually having a few attacking wins with 1 metre per carry better average gain, 3 breaks to 1, so not a lot of breaks in the game, but Salford clearly won that count. But Widnes were able to make 3 fewer errors and conceded 1 fewer penalty, which were positive factors in helping them get the win in the end. Individually, Christine had a try, 50 tackles, 18 of those were marker tackles, so hard work there from Chris. Aaron Herremeier with a try assist, 46 tackles, underlining his sort of
all-round value.
Performance really. Chris Houston worked really hard, 47 tackles, 10 marker tackles, 114 metres, all of that from everyone's granddad in Super League. And Ed Chamberlain on the wing had 109 metres. And I pick out Ed Chamberlain because I actually have been a little bit surprised how good he's been on the wing this year. He's been really fast. He's not made many mistakes. I can't remember him dropping too many balls. There was a kick early on in this one that he took well above his head on near the sideline, I think, under a lot of pressure. And a little shout out to Ed Chamberlain, kind of going under the radar, but doing quite well in what I didn't think was his position. I always thought he was a centre.
I saw him play fullback actually last year.
Right.
He played fullback for, I want to say, Workington on dual reg, or it was,
yeah.
But it was so it was one of the league, and they had, so they had that, and I can't remember who Oxford had, but it was basically a battle of the on loan fullbacks for the day. But no, he ran some really nice lines playing at fullback, and he had a really good sort of game awareness, and he was pretty good under the high ball for the game I saw him in. So no, I'm quite pleased to see him developing and coming on.
Yeah, they've got a good youth set up at Widnes. It's just it's a shame that the crowd seem to be dwindling. Let's hope that's a weather thing and not a falling out of love with the sport thing. For the losing Salford side, Lee Mossop 128 metres before he got a bit of a bang and went off. Niall Evans 115 metres. He was very, very good, popping up all over the place, but just maybe his timing was just not quite perfect enough for him to have that final cutting edge, sadly. Darryl Alfert's 114 metres on his Super League debut, and Junior Sow 108 metres in the Funhouse.
There we go. So moving on to the next game, and on Friday night it was the Battle of the Champions down at Ellen Road, and it was Leeds 24, Castleford 25, in front of a not quite record 23,246, and Chris Kendall was the referee.
Yeah, and obviously it was a 25-10 half-time scoreline, so almost a comeback from the Rhinos. And we start the fan views with Karsten, who says Leeds was in the wrong stadium for the first 20 minutes and came back strong after they arrived. A lot of emotion in the game and Leeds fell just short. No rest fault from me, but there is room for improvement for that young bloke.
Yeah, Mitchell Dart said those 66-10 memories were coming back during the first half, but that could be a name of a specialist publication, couldn't it?
It's the Battle of Hastings 1066, if you ask.
Hey! But we held on and finished looking okay. We seem to be liking these tense last 10-minute finishes, and I'm not sure my heart can take much more of it this time in the morning. Damn Gale and his wonderfully timed early field goal. Gutted to lose, but extremely proud of especially the defensive effort in the second half.
Dr. Bob Phillips simply says, more kicking practice, please, Callum.
See, that refers to the one I was talking about earlier. I was almost in two minds. Do you even, because of the time on the clock, do you even bother with the conversion out wide if you know that you've got a kicker who isn't going to land it?
I think they had enough time, though, didn't they? There was
was just about enough. Yeah.
Basically, after the conversion was kicked, there was close to 2 minutes left on the clock, I think. So